I think I ruined my relationship with my boyfriend. Me and my partner have had our ups and downs through our relationship, but this time I really think it's going to be the end. I'll try to give you a quick look through our relationship to make this fair for the both of us. I'm not going to sugarcoat anything and just keep it real. He's my very first boyfriend, but he got a couple of exes. To be honest, I lack experience about the whole relationships thing, but heaven knows I tried, and I really tried, because I felt like this is the person I want to spend the rest of my life with. A couple days ago, he texts me out of nowhere that this relationship is exhausting and he doesn't want to be in a relationship anymore, even though we were texting normally. But we didn't text much that day because I accompanied my sibling to their dentist appointment and he was with his friends. He's not the type to text me when he's outside, so I prefer to give him his own space, but I usually send him random texts throughout the day to let him know that I'm thinking of him. Anyways, I ask him why is he saying that, and he says that he doesn't think we're on the same page mentally. I told him to explain further and try and fix this together. He then says that he's tired and want to sleep. I obviously couldn't just tell him okay, good night, and let this be. I'm not going to throw away our relationship this easily, and I'm not giving up on it. I texted back, at least let's not leave this conversation hanging this way. And I'd do anything to fix whatever is going on. He was away for like an hour and a half, then texted back, hey, are you still up? I told him sure, and let's talk. He told me that I've got a couple traits that he hates, and the problem with me is that I'm too shy, indecisive, and exhaust him. I told him to give me example for the things I did for each one of these. Indecisive was because I don't know where to go on our dates. I have a strict mother, and I told him all about it before, so I don't go out that much and I don't know much places, so I always keep it to him to decide. And I told him that I'd be fine with whatever place he picks because I just want to be with him, and that all that matters. When I told him I can't decide where to go because I don't have much knowledge, he said that if I wanted I would, and it exhausts him that he always the one who has to pick the place and the time of our date. Shy because I didn't talk much on our dates. We went on 2 dates and he's the first guy I ever go out with like alone. He's my first relationship after all, and I'm still not too used to this, and it makes me really nervous, but I try my best to keep the conversation going when he says something. But honestly, yes, I didn't talk much. Also, another thing about shyness is that most of the time I can't really reply to his texts. I'm fine with it, but I truly feel puzzled, like I don't know what to say, and I get scared that I might fuck up if I said something wrong. I told him I'll try to change and be better, and honestly I kind of made a fool out of myself that day and begged him to give me another chance. He accepted. I indeed became less shy, and he even said I like the new you. Literally the next day he texts me again out of nowhere that this whole thing is exhausting yet again, like it's been only a day. He didn't give me chance to really change and be better. I swear I was going to give it my all. He said he won't leave me and we should take things slower but as friends, and that we should get to know each other better and go out more. I asked my sister, F27, for advice because she's got more experience than me, and she told me that I should find better and that not knowing places or being quiet on dates aren't a big of a deal to break up over, but I don't know if she's just being biased because, well, she's my sister. I truly love him and he was so sweet at the beginning. I really felt like that's the guy that I'm going to continue living the rest of my life with. Now he feels like a stranger. I can't stop crying and I just don't know what to do. Double frowny face. Next story 2. My in-laws went NC with my wife, their daughter, because she talks to her sister. I usually shun social media, but I have been known to use Reddit. I never thought I would post something, yet here I am. My 43M wife, P 39F, has a bio sister, T 38F. They were both adopted by the same people at different times. P was adopted when she was about 1 year old after she was removed from her bio parents' care due to abuse. About 6 months later, T was removed from her bio parents at birth and immediately placed with P's parents due to the bio parents' past behavior with P, as well as with another previous child which was also removed from their custody. P and T have never met their bio parents and have only interacted with their birth father once when T tried to reach out to him, but the interaction left a bad taste in her mouth after he asked for a kidney 5 minutes in. For all intents and purposes, their adoptive parents are their only parents, the bio parents are rarely discussed and never in a good light, understandably. T is married and has 2 kids, 8 and 10. P and I have a 4-year-old. The parents, R, 70F, and W, 73M, are retired white-collar middle-class people. They are somewhat old-fashioned, as most of their generation are, but appeared at first as kind, respectful and generous people. They could be, however, a bit crotchety, stubborn, and argumentative. Their daughters are also very much stubborn, argumentative, and uncompromising, a product of their upbringing, I suspect. P and T are close and have almost always been, being so close in age will do that. In their teens they had a different circle of friends and shared different hobbies, but have mostly remained close. I say mostly because T has a very dominant personality, has a view of how things should be, and when things don't go her way or if you disagree with her, well, things can get spicy. I have been on the receiving end of her temper, but I think she finds me intimidating and has limited her outbursts with me. However, P has seen a lot of her sister's outbursts and has often received the brunt of it. Despite this, P and T tend to make up after every argument and are still very close. T is in therapy and, according to my wife, is getting better. I give T the benefit of the doubt for the time being. T's relationship with her parents was fine for the most part, but when you pit a stubborn person against another, you will create lots of static. There were several screaming arguments in the last few years, usually after a few drinks were imbibed, where the bonds started to break down. From my point of view, in some of these arguments, T was in the wrong, in others, R and W were clearly the bad guys. Like with many stubborn people, no one will admit fault, apologize or seek group/family therapy. 2 Christ Masses ago, another argument broke out. We weren't there as we likely had covered and stayed away, but things got heated and T, her husband, and her kids left. They could have talked it out, but instead they decided to scream at each other and left on bad terms. The argument would take too long to explain, but involves pets, kids and pistachios. No, the kids were not feeding the pets pistachios. The argument was just a mess involving multiple things that reached a boiling point. As a result, T and her parents have not talked since. The clincher? R and W asked me for my advice. As if I was some uninterested third party. I refused to get involved at first, but eventually told them that you shouldn't stay in relationships with toxic people, but that they should introspect to see if they had anything to do with this first before making a rash decision. I was hinting that maybe they contributed to this, maybe they were the toxic ones. They decided to go no contact with T. They send cards with money in the mail to T's kids on their birthdays. They refuse to come to the sports games, recitals, or life events. They want nothing to do with T. My wife was caught in the middle. She didn't want to take sides and stop talking to her parents or T. So, for the next 2 years, she had contact with both, but never with them together. It was difficult. Over time, R and W became more and more distant with P and didn't invite us over very often. They made excuses for Easter and Christmas, forcing us to stay home or join T's family instead. We ended up going there sporadically and only for a few hours at a time. In January of this year, my mother contracted cancer. She died of a stroke in February caused by the radiation treatment. My wife was close to my mother and wanted to be by her side on her deathbed. After her stroke, they gave my mother 7 to 10 days. She died 6 days later. We didn't want our daughter around while my mother was dying, so we asked P's parents to babysit her for a few days until my mother passed. They were hesitant, giving many excuses and conditions, settling on maybe only for one night. We read the room, said thanks, but we needed more commitment from them in this regard and instead asked T to watch our kid. T did so without hesitation. After a few days we started to worry about our cat, who has a special diet and had been at home on dry, bad, food for the last 3 days, so we asked P's parents if they could take care of him for a few days until my mother passed. Big house, sweet cat, they were cat owners previously. Again, conditions and excuses. We said never mind and asked T again to take care of our cat. She, again, did so without hesitations. She even had her husband pick up the cat at our home so we didn't have to drive back to do this ourselves. I want to clarify for the record here that we were not expecting RNW to pick up all the slack, as T had said she would help some anyway, and we still drove home for a few nights to be with our kid. But at least give us something to work with rather than vague, nebulous times and conditions slathered with hesitancy. In the past they had expressed that they wanted more time with our kid and that we should leave her with them for a few nights, so we thought this was a win-win. I personally would not have asked such a request if it was under any other circumstance. But, this was an emergency and we needed her family's help, as this is what families do for each other. And for perspective, we live 45 minutes east of T's home, 1.25 hours east of R&W's home, and 1.25 hours west of my mother's home, where she died. So, a 5-hour round trip from my mom's to R&W's and back. The commute to trade cats and kids would have been brutal, especially on little sleep, and T really helped us out during this difficult week, and we are grateful for what she did so we could be with my mother in her dying days. Communications with R&W became less and less until my wife asked in April what was going on and why were they giving her the cold shoulder. They replied that she had picked a side and they were uncomfortable with it. In other words, they were upset that my wife still had contact with T and that she had not cut contact with her like they did. We suspect that they are also upset that we picked T to babysit the cat and the kid over them. But, they put up so many conditions that it had become difficult to accommodate, and a lot easier if T was willing to help out instead. Regardless, my wife is heartbroken. She feels like her bio parents abandoned her and now her parents are doing the same. Worse is that our daughter is asking where her grandparents are as she misses them. My father passed away a long time ago, and with my mother gone it feels like she has no grandparents at all. At night my wife cries herself to sleep sometimes when she thinks about them. They haven't spoken since April. My kid also asks to FaceTime grandma and grandpa sometimes, and it breaks P's heart when she has to make up an excuse to spare the kid. T's kids are also sad as they can't go see their grandparents like they used to in the past, spending weeks at a time with them at their house. I'm wondering if I should intervene by writing them an email without P or T knowing, basically telling them that they are in the wrong and hurting their daughter, and grandkid. They seem to listen to me, but, then again, they are stubborn, crotchety old folk. I just don't know if I should. Not my circus, but I do have some monkeys involved.